This one is one of my favorites episodes of this season. Finally we get a new event for which all actors can dress up, and we finally get to see Pascal LeMarchal, and the conflict between Emily and the Graysons escalates. First of all, I like the frame with this opera. In fact, many American movies and TV shows like to use opera songs as a theme or the opera as a setting to make it all more emotional. Like in Philadelphia with that famous scene of Tom Hanks, or in Pretty Woman in which Richard Gere takes Julia Roberts to the opera and she wears that stunning red dress. Here with Revenge it has more meaning since the opera played a big role in the original Dumas plot, cause it was the favorite free-time venue for the rich and upper class in France that time. And you had the chance to see the king when he was visiting the opera. If you were high-ranked, maybe even visit his lodge and talk to him. So for me this was only natural, showing that the Graysons loved the opera. And like every great episode of Revenge, this one could stand for itself cause the mood and cinematography is very different from the other episodes. From the very first beginning with Emily running out of the opera in the flash forward, you know this is gonna be special. I am not a fan of the opera, but I like the heightened emotions such opera songs invoke. No music can make you feel so much emotions at one time. It makes the moment really special because it is so artificial and pure at the same time. I guess the theme of the opera was chosen to fit the storyline as well. Cause we have a revenge theme as well in this opera, and I think the big solo song the actor is singing might be his vow for revenge. But of course in the opera Pagliacci it is out of love. The main protagonist is a very much jealous husband who keeps his wife merely as a hostage while she is having an affair behind his back. You see there are ties to Emily's and Daniel's situation. Only the roles are reversed. Daniel is the one who wants out of this marriage and has an affair with Sarah. Yet you can also see Emily and Aidan in this, cause he is the one she really loves and they had the plan to flee the Hamptons after her mission is complete. Anyway, the opera was wisely chosen since we have this revenge and love triangle theme. About Daniel and Victoria trying to get rid of Emily, these two scenes were very funny for me. I know as he showed Victoria the photos that were taken from his private investigator that Daniel cheered too soon. After all, Emily has the one trump card that Daniel shot her. And she maybe was willing to use it even if it was only to arouse a new scandal for the Graysons. Since Daniel betrayed her with Sarah, he could not make much out of it that she was betraying him too with Aidan. They had no evidence that she did it first and he still seems to have no clue how long this affair is going on. So Emily still holds all the cards and can continue to taunt Daniel and Victoria as long as she wants. Especially the scene in which they both confront her was so great. Her little act and the hate in their looks and words. She was really giving in and showed how much she despises the Graysons, Daniel included. I think after this she knew she had to build an exit strategy. Since Victoria's thoughtful look could only mean that she begins to decode Emily's real intentions. About Nolan testing Emily, first I really like how they show us different sides of the main locations.
Okay, the beach house is small, there you cannot find many new spots. But with Grayson Manor and Nolan's new home they take full advantage of the locations.
I like his big pool and the view from his garden, really great. I would totally love to be invited to stay on vacation there.
And Grayson Manor is so big that there are still angles and areas we have not seen. I like again how playful Nolan is.
Testing her if she is in her right mind might be the new running gag between the two. And her blackouts were surely a nightmare for him from which he has to recover, too. Another reason why this episode feels so fresh and good is that they lost all the baggage from the previous storylines.
Emily has overcome her blackouts or episodes, and seems to be fully recovered for her standards.
So she can pursue her revengenda again, which should have been focus of the show in the first place. We finally got rid of the subplots with Sarah and Nico. Not that I did not enjoy these characters, but the plot around them just kept Emily from pursuing her main goal, taking down the Graysons. Gathering new information feels like we finally getting back to the real revenge show from season 1. Even though we still have no new target yet.
About Pascal, no doubt he is the most intriguing new character addition this season. Not only because he will become Emily's new target for the next couple of episodes, his entanglement with the Graysons and being an old and new adversary and business partner of Conrad made him really special.
I think besides Victoria we had no target that was a rival of Conrad and played at his level. All her targets in season 1 were people Conrad used, and even the Big Great Initiative was finally shown as an organization Conrad took over to become even more rich and powerful. So it was refreshing to see, after Father Paul and Mason who tried to help Emily and failed, seeing another one of her targets going after Conrad.
Even more as we have this subplot that he is doing this to help Victoria.
I know it was lame giving her the next best man as love interest,
but I still think bringing both back together and their little backstory was a good idea, because it raised the stakes for Emily and Victoria, and drew an even tighter connection between them. Especially if you think of the escalation in season 4,
in which the war between these two women becomes the center of it all,
when they focus on their sick-hate relationship.
And they are really good in keeping us invested in this new character, since all Charlotte has to say is how much attention this man gets in the media. A smart move as well was making Olivier Martinez play the part.
He is not only still good looking for his age,
I think he also got very much attention in the media at the time. So he seemed very fitting for the part. And besides his annoying accent, he played the role good. About Margaux and her father, what I really enjoyed in this first introduction is that they showed us the conflict between Margaux and her father out of her perspective. They really took advantage out of her character. 'Cause she was introduced as a powerful and ambitious businesswoman
who wants to step out of the shadow of her father.
Now we get to see how difficult this is for her, cause Pascal does not see her as equal because she is only a woman.
And I love to see how both Conrad and Pascal dwell into the role of powerful old white men, who want nothing less than losing their privileges to a woman.
As I said about the other targets, revenge is at its best when we get to see the wrongs and abuses in society. After all, this is the core of revenge, righting wrongs, as Emily said herself.
About Emily, Jack and Stevie, this scene shows two things. First, Emily is still kind of shattered and not that ruthless anymore, as we have seen her in season 1. And second, she is much more considerate and takes into account Jack's wishes. I guess she just does not want to hurt him anymore like she already did.
Actually, this is one of the main problems for Emily and Jack in the long run. She is so eager not to hurt him and to keep him safe that she oversees that Jack has a free will.
He can decide for himself how much danger and hurt he can endure. We will see this conflict when he wants to join her revengenda later.
And especially in season 4 when Emily rejects him with this argument not causing any more pain.
Which is funny, cause by rejecting him she is obviously inflicting pain.
Anyway, it is odd to see how much she is in defense with him since Amanda died. Seems that Jack's wishes have more power over her than the needs of anybody else on the show.
Not even Aidan or Nolan can make her give up a plan when it affects them in a bad way, if she wants to go through with it.
But if talking with Jack's mom about something she might even want to tell Emily to help does affect him in one tiny way, she gives up.
I am wondering if they did this on purpose to show the deeper connection here, or if it just happened cause Jack is far more delicate than Nolan and Aidan, since they both suffered more and longer under Emily's revengenda and its side effects.
Sorry for the inconvenience, but I have to use the male voice to make the last part of the video more consistent, since the bug in this free program I use to create the audio files is getting worse. They just switched this female voice I use since the first episode talk into a male one for what it seems now permanently. If anyone has a free or at least cheap alternative for Natural Reader, feel free to let me know in the comments. 'Cause besides this natural-sounding English voice, the other free voices of the program sound really metallic and artificial. But back to the actual revenge episode. About Conrad Pascal and Victoria. This love triangle was fun to watch. Made me wish to see some flashback that showed David not as a victim, but his affair with Victoria behind the back of his boss. Would have been interesting to have seen how Conrad got to know of it. Was he clueless till the end and Victoria confessed it to him, together with the plan of taking David down? Or did he knew and used Victoria's bad conscience to make her frame David? Anyway, I liked this love story very much. Especially because both Grayson have history with Pascal, which made the whole storyline more complicated and intriguing. Funny was that Victoria did not say yes to Pascal right away. It was new seeing her using his attention to feel better, without throwing herself into his arms like she did with her other affairs in Season 1. She maybe even tries to taunt Conrad with it. What made Pascal even more intriguing for me is that he really tries to woo her funny enough with the help of her former husband Conrad. I must admit this whole plot was a little inconsistent, but I liked that, since we have very much different emotions and agendas involved here. For Emily, Pascal is just another target that is the end disposable, while for Conrad, Pascal becomes more and more a serious threat. At first I think he wanted to check if Pascal was still on his side, and for him this rivalry was something like a sport. But as he saw Victoria was serious with Pascal, something he might not consider it to happen, he wanted to get rid of him, even more as Pascal was threatening him. So in my opinion, Pascal sealed his own fate with helping Victoria fighting against Conrad. But we will get to that in the later episodes. For now it was fun to watch how these two titans think they could conquer and divide the world between each other. Another thing, I wish they showed us some flashbacks with this target, even more because he had this elaborate backstory. On the internet I found they even casted a young Conrad and Pascal. Would have been interesting to actually see what Victoria and Pascal only talked about. She was actually engaged with Pascal before she got to know Conrad. Victoria and Pascal met during her time in France and they obviously stayed together while she was back in the States. But he cheated on her, hence her reluctance to take him back. Till now it is just a typical story about cheating men. The only difference, both have become very powerful men. Pascal with his media empire and Conrad with his financial business. And both are entangled in the David Clarke scandal. About Stevie and Emily, another story arc I wished they had explored more. Again, Jack is the one who becomes a major roadblock for this. Like I said multiple times, I love it when they show us people from the Graysons past who contacted David on his behalf. They had to be multiple people on the way before he finally died who believed David was innocent and wanted to help him getting justice. And wanted to help him getting his case reopened. Since it was a controversial verdict as I understand, it is only natural that she was interested in this particular case. Since Stevie is introduced as someone who strongly believes in right and wrong and conveniently works as a lawyer, even more as this delivered an opportunity to endanger her former husband's reputation and maybe even put him in jail. So back then and now again Stevie has enough reasons to take her own revenge on the Graysons, especially since we hear that she despises Victoria nearly as much as Emily does. So I was very much disappointed that she got not more involved in Emily's war with the Graysons. As I said, since Formander died and Aidan came into the picture, we do not see many other alliances for Emily. Nolan is of course always involved and Jack is gonna be in the future. But these are characters which have been in Nolan's and Jack's case attached to Emily since the very first beginning. It would have kept the show fresh and more interesting to see new and maybe even unusual alliances between Emily and Margaux, for instance. I think seeing a new character working together with Emily, maybe even with a new approach, would have been far more interesting than the old pattern. Would have been interesting seeing her not only defend her plan, but maybe even talk it through with someone thinking as much strategic as her, and being not that much emotional involved as Aidan and Nolan. Till the end, Emily is in charge of everything and has the last word. I know she is the lead, but would have been nice seeing someone else step up. Anyway, I was thrilled when Stevie confronted Emily. And I really wished she would have told her the truth and the two worked together. But since before she told Nolan she cannot afford a new wild card, Emily was just too cautious. Hence, knowing that Stevie is an alcoholic, it would be just too risky admitting her true identity to her. It is such a shame that the writers created their own dead end here. Stevie could have been a real great ally if she was portrayed as a strong woman with a profound knowledge of the legal system. Maybe they could have tried to get something really substantial here. I know that would have been a totally different show. But for me it was so sad seeing her leaving so soon. And that Victoria had still such power over her. I mean, it was clever and something Emily would have done, using her biggest weakness, her alcoholism, against Stevie. But they could have shown that she has grown so much and withstand the temptation, instead of making her this weak and anxious character, who wants the best but is not of much help because she is too weak to take a stand against Victoria and Conrad. About Nolan's new roommate. Seems to be a new running gag for this season. After being an unwanted guest of Emily in the beach house for the first half of season 2, now Nolan has unwanted guests. First Nico, when she was Aidan's girlfriend. Aidan, of course, since Emily wanted him to be near after he got kicked out of the manor by Victoria. By the way, I wonder why the Graysons did not get to know that Aidan was staying with Nolan and not left the Hamptons, since Charlotte hired him, and now they telling us that Victoria and Daniel thought he would have left the Hamptons. Another plot hole. Anyway, now Nolan has a new house guest with his buddy Javier. And I must admit that he was really poorly introduced, and the whole time I thought again that they are repeating the pattern of season 2. Introducing new promising characters only to get rid of them in the next minute. Javier had the luck to stay more than one episode, but his story arc was not as good as it could have been. Essentially, his relationship or affair with Charlotte was more than ridiculous. Seems they want to continue the trope that she is into bad guys, since Nolan and Javier met in jail. But I like his humor. He has a good chemistry with Nolan. I guess he was just around to be Charlotte's new boyfriend and showing how Daniel is using people to his advantage. So Javier left no big impression, I am afraid. About Jack helping Emily and Nolan, I mentioned it several times. The best thing they did in the last half of season 3 was getting Jack involved in Emily's revengenda. I loved when he finally got his hands dirty in the last season. Jack was often annoyingly righteous and complacent in his judgments. Seeing him actually helping and conspiring with Emily put their relationship to a new level. And with this scene we have a new kind of relationship between Nolan and Jack, too. Finally he is in the inner circle and Nolan can talk with him more playfully because he has no longer to be cautious. I like this compilation still. It is maybe not the funniest scene but still works for me. It is in the right amount playful and creates enough suspension to not be lame. And look at this great mirroring effect with the pool. I just adore Nolan's new house. Shows Emily has not only in fashion an impeccable sense of style and taste. Speaking of fashion and style. About the big event in this episode. Going to the opera. Finally a new excuse to show off some expensive designer dresses and jewelry. I love that the style of Emily's and Victoria's dresses resemble each other but are different enough. Both are wearing long gowns with an off-shoulder neckline. It suits the two ladies and especially the long tight black Dolce & Gabbana dress looks fabulous. Underlines Victoria's status as Black Queen and her shows off her still very sexy figure. Emily's dress looks more elegant and is in the right amount extravagant. I love the pattern that looks like a thunderstorm. A fitting metaphor for what is about to come. And finally they gave her an updo again. I know I am very often complaining about this and for some it might be unnerving. But in my opinion it looks more professional when her hair is done for such events, than just having her long hair falling in waves. And the strict look of this hairstyle just fits Emily's persona. Even Charlotte looks great with her ponytail and the red dress. By the way, it is nice to see that they finally take full advantage of accessoires. Emily's jewelry looks really rich and even Charlotte is wearing this choker band that was trending for a while. The only dress I did not like was Margaux's. With the big earrings it is a little too much for my taste. And here comes the scene with Pascal in which Emily VanCamp can show off her French. About Emily exposing herself. An interesting twist that Emily used Charlotte to get this story out. So she could create this break from the Graysons and still bought herself time. And since she and Victoria made such a scene, no one would expect that the story came from her. The only thing she was again sacrificing for this was Charlotte and a good relationship to her. Since Charlotte was the only one of the three Graysons who did not know about the fake pregnancy. Oh, and I forgot Conrad, but I guess he does not care about this. And would be even impressed by Emily's lie and ruthlessness. Even though I know that Emily was faking the whole scene. I still cannot quite understand Victoria's look. For me it looks as if Emily's harsh reaction of her touch triggers something. But maybe I am interpreting too much in this and Victoria is just surprised by Emily's strong reaction. I thought she maybe was remembering something about little Amanda. Hence we saw before in her conversation with Daniel that Victoria assumes a connection between Emily and David Clarke. But since they presumably never met in person besides this look she gave her that night, I might be wrong. Anyway, I still love the end of the scene. Finally they take full advantage of Emily's beautiful dress and the opera set. The scene looks really great and shows us again how harmful and hard it can be to live your life under the spotlight of the media. Interesting that Emily seems to give a damn about her reputation in and outside the newspapers. About Emily moving out, I hope these 2 suitcases are only the last one, since Emily must have had more than this in her wardrobe. Especially after her shopping tour to tease Daniel. Now that the surprise effect is gone, watching this for the 100th time, the scene is not that funny anymore. 'cause Daniel and Victoria are just too happy about Emily leaving. But Emily's remark that both are getting what they wanted made me suspicious as I watched this for the first time. What is interesting that even though Victoria warns Daniel multiple times about Emily's hidden agenda, he seems not to be that eager to decode it. It seems as if he is still underestimating her, while Victoria sees right through Emily's harmless facade. About Pascal and Conrad again, I can still not figure out what Conrad's intentions were with Pascal. Was he really so much into the idea of merging their companies? Or was it just a test to see how loyal Pascal is? And what is his game with Victoria? Was he really willing to give her up like a pawn in a game? Or did he thought that Pascal would ruin their relationship as he did before? And Victoria would come crawling back to him for comfort. About Emily and Jack, I like that he fights to stay in the inner circle and get involved in her war. Which is kind of becoming his war, too, since Formander and Declan died because of Conrad. That he still wants to help Emily even though his girlfriend Margaux and her father are involved shows how much this war against the Graysons and Emily mean to him. He is still in love with Emily, so I knew that his relationship with Margaux would go down fast. The only annoying thing for me is that they waited till the beginning of season 4 to make this a topic. I know they could not switch teams till Aidan was around, and they wanted to use this big loss at the end of this season to make Emily and Victoria go over the edge. But it was crystal clear that Jack is still very much in love with her after Formander died. Why else would he have forgiven her this big lie and being in part responsible for the death of his beloved wife and the childhood fantasy he cherished for so long? About the new riddle, after first watching it, this is crystal clear. And I wonder why Emily did not thought about it earlier. Did she not know the name of Aidan's father? As much as I enjoyed the backstory of Trevor Mathis, I hate how they are handling this. Why could she not contact Aidan now that she knew his father was involved? This whole "you might have inside information in the next episode" makes zero sense if she cannot decode the abbreviation. And telling Jack that she would keep his mother and girlfriend safe was almost an invitation to guess who Jack is gonna loose next. Like any time when Emily said she would make sure there is no collateral damage, we all knew this would be exactly the case. So I was happy that they finally got on track with the revenge game, 'cause we waited long enough for a new target. And Pascal was surely after the Graysons the biggest and greatest one.